Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Go Premanandi. Yeah.
It's not functional.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtapraishu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishne Swadhamo Pagate Dhanamajnanadibhisah Kalaunashtadrishamesha Puranarko Dhunoditah. Grantaraj Srīmad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 10, entitled Divisions of the Creation. Today we're studying text number 11. Maitreya Uvacha Guna Vyatikarakaro Nirvishesho Pratishtataha Purushastarupadanam Atmanam Leelaya Srijata. Maitreya Uvacha Guna Vyatikarakaro Nirvishesho Pratishtataha Purushastarupadanam Atmanam Leelaya Srijata. Guna Vyatikarakaro Nirvishesho Pratishtitaha Purushastarupadanam Atmanam Leelaya Srijat. Maitreya Uvacha Yatikarakaro
Maitreya Uvacha Guna Vyatikarakaro Nirvishesho Pratishtitaha Purushasthadupadanam Atmanam Leelaya Srijat Maitreya Uvacha Nirvishesho Pratishtitaha Purushasthadupadanam Atmanam Leelaya Srijat
Maitreya Uvacha Guna Vyatikarakaro Nirvishesho Pratishtitaha Purushasthadupadanam Atmanam Leelaya Srijat
Ladies,
Maitreya Uvacha Guna Vyatikarakaro Nirvishesho Pratishtitaha Purushasthadupadanam Atmanam Leelaya Srijat
Maitreya Uvacha Maitreya said, Guna Vyatikara of the interactions of the modes of material nature. Akaraha, source. Nirvisheshaha, without diversity. Apratishtitaha, unlimited. Purushaha, of the Supreme Person. Tat, that. Upadanam, instrument. Atmanam, the material creation. Leelaya, by pastimes. Asrijat, created. Translation. Maitreya said, eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. Kindly repeat. Maitreya said, eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The impersonal time factor is the background of the material manifestation as the instrument of the Supreme Lord. It is the ingredient of assistance offered to material nature. No one knows where time began and where it ends, and it is time only which can keep a record of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material manifestation. This time factor is the material cause of creation and is therefore a self-expansion of the personality of Godhead. time is considered the impersonal feature of the Lord. The time factor is also explained by modern men in various ways. Some accept it almost as it is explained in the Srīmad Bhagavatam. For example, in Hebrew literature, time is accepted in the same spirit as a representation of God. It is stated therein, quote, God who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, etc., end quote. Metaphysically, time is distinguished as absolute and real. Absolute time is continuous and is unaffected by the speed or slowness of material things. Time is astronomically and mathematically calculated in relation to the speed, change, and life of a particular object. Factually, however, time has nothing to do with the relativities of things. Rather, everything is shaped and calculated in terms of the facility offered by time. Time is the basic measurement of the activity of our senses, by which we calculate past, present, and future. But in factual calculation, time has no beginning and no end. Pandit Chanakya says that even a slight fraction of time cannot be purchased with millions of dollars. And therefore, even a moment of time lost without profit must be calculated as the greatest loss in life. Time is not subject to any form of psychology, nor are the movements of objective realities in themselves, but they are dependent on particular experiences. Shall I read this again? Time is not subject to any form of psychology, nor are the moments objective realities in themselves, but they are dependent on particular experiences. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami concludes that the time factor is intermixed with the activities, actions and reactions, of the external energy of the Lord. The external energy or material nature works under the superintendence of the time factor, as the Lord himself. And that is why material nature appears to have produced so many wonderful things in the cosmic manifestation. Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text 10 confirms this conclusion as follows. Maya tyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagad viparivartate. Might as well give you the translation for that verse. This material nature, which is one of my energies, Krishna speaks here, this material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganaragunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahatam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustate Devi Pranamami Harpriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Madgavirapi Gopala Swikuryat Kripaya Yali Tadaivasam Payaha Pitva Hrishya Yustat Priyajanaha. My dear Lord Gopal, only if you accept my words to be your cows will they produce sweet milk and give pleasure to your devotees. Guna vyatikarakaro nirvishesho pratishtitaha purushas tad upadanam atmanam lilayasrajata. Maitreya said, eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. This reminds me of one purport here in the Srīmad Bhagavatam, in which Srila Prabhupada says that the activities of Mahavishnu manifesting so many universes and watching them be created and destroyed and infused with living entities and living entities coming out of that as well. He said that this is just an extension of the Lord's Rasa Lila pastimes. Kind of hard to understand that, but there's nothing easy to understand about this verse. Eternal time, what to say? Madhvacharya, in his comment on this verse, he actually gives a pretty substantial commentary by his standard. Guna vyatikaram akaroti tad drishtva pratishtito anyatra sabhagavah kasmin pratishtita iti swamahimni iti shrutihi tarupadanam guna vyatikaropadana kritaram srishtyadi-arthatvena tasya purashasya brahma vishnu maheshwara iti trini rupani atmana srishtani. So, having been seen, the Lord affects the interactions of the gunas, otherwise he's limitless. As per the Shruti mantra, Sabhagava kasmin pratishtete iti swahimni. This is from Chandogya Upanishad. Means, O Bhagavan, what is that which is established here? And the answer is given that is his own greatness. So, Madhva here says that instrument, tarupadanam, means the one who affects the interactions of these instrumental modes with which the significance of the creation and so on, or through the significance of creation and so forth of that particular Purusha. That would be the Supreme Purusha, who is God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Person. And he does this through three forms. What are those three forms? You can guess, if you're listening carefully to the Sanskrit that I just recited. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. That's Lord Brahma, the creator of this material cosmic manifestation, and Lord Vishnu, its maintainer, and Lord Maheshwara, or Shiva, the destroyer. So through these agents and through the modes of material nature that they control, this material nature, this time factor, it becomes the instrument through which the interactions of the gunas is regulated by God. In other words, you got no escape route. He's controlling everything about you, and you cannot get around that. So this should be the conclusion. Anyway, Madhvacharya's comments are typically brief. although we get a little more in today's commentary than I've seen earlier. So Sridhar Swami gives his contribution to this discussion. Tatra samanyataha kalasya surupam atrochyate uttaradhyaye to visheshataha. He's explaining, in summary, what is the essential sarup, or the essential form of this time factor. That's what's being described here. It will be described later on, especially as well. So, he quotes from Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, chapter 22, chapter 13, Guna Vyatikara Kalaha Swabhava Sutramevacha. That means that, this is from 11th Canto. That means that the interactions of these three modes, their very essence is the kala, the time factor. And that time factor is the warp and the woof of creation, we can say. The sutram, that which holds everything together in this world. As Prabhupada has so nicely explained in his purport. Time is astronomically and mathematically calculated in relation to the speed, change, and life of a particular object. Factually, however, time has nothing to do with the relativities of things. Rather, everything is shaped and calculated in terms of the facility offered by time. Time is the basic measurement of the activity of our senses, by which we calculate past, present, and future, but in factual calculation, time has no beginning and no end. So we already know time is relative. If you're a bug, years will last only split seconds in human time. And if you're a human being, centuries are mere seconds according to the demigods. So it's very relative. But there's one thing which is constant throughout this, even though it is apratishtata, it is limitless. And what's the other word used here? He says, nirvishesha. You can't really pin it down exactly. It's not specific in an absolute way. It's vague in an absolute way. But time is controlling everything. This is the point. So, swatastu nirvisheshaha. Itself, it is impersonal. Apratishta kvapi aparyavasitaha. Adyanta shunya ityarthaha. Means that time has no foundation, in the sense that you can't pin down where does it begin. Eternality is a concept that we talk about sometimes. Eternality means, according to our view, there's no beginning and there's no end. Christian theology has a different view of eternality with regard to the soul in particular. That's like a ray theory, right? What's the difference between a line and a ray? Anybody remember algebra or geometry? Yeah, line actually doesn't have 2 points. Line is infinite in both directions, but a point begins from a certain place and continues infinitely since, ray begins from a certain point and begins like that. So that they say that the soul was created, but Krishna says, Jatasihi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Anything that has a beginning, it has to have an end also. And adi antavanta kaunteyana te shuramate buddha. Smart people, they don't really bank on things that have beginnings and ends, because you're going to lose those kind of things. So the real thing is eternal time. But it's not easy to conceive of this time. That's why we call it nirvishesha apratishta here. So etareva darshayatam ishvara srishtyadi tena nimitta bhutena karoti tyaha purusha iti. There, now he uses, just to illustrate this, he uses the word purusha, because there is a person in charge of this whole cosmic manifestation here. The words are used here. Purushaha tarupadanam atmanam lilaya asrajata. Purusha lilaya asrajat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead created this world out of his pastimes, or you can say in order to perform his pastimes. Now, another interesting thing here is that Atmanam, how do we normally understand the word Atma? Soul or mind or body or... here's where... What does it say? Look at the synonyms. Do you see it? Yes. It's very interesting. His self. You can say he has a body also. If he has a material body, it is the creation. But that's not, of course, Swayam Bhagavan. That's a different matter. But what does he say here? Sakala upadanam nimittam yasmin tam atmanam eva vishwarupena srijata. He creates that self, as it were, in the form of this material cosmic manifestation. Jiva Goswami doesn't say anything here, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he comments in much the same vein, Gunanam vyatikarat mahadadi parinamat eva akara surupa jnanam yasya saha. Time, the knowledge of whose nature arises from transformation of the gunas into the mahatattva and other elements, is without specific qualities and is without beginning and end. By its cause, creation and destruction take place. Upadana means what is accepted as a cause. You all know these terms? Nimitta, upadana. These are two kinds of cause, karana. So there's the instrumental cause and there's the ultimate cause. So this is the time factor, ultimate cause. From the verb upada, which means to receive. The Lord created the universe, which is called himself Atmanam, because it's a result of his Shakti, which in time acts as the efficient cause. So there's the instrumental cause and there's the effect. Cause and effect, you can say. So this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says about this. Now, if we jump ahead in this Srīmad Bhagavatam, we're on chapter 10 right now. In 19 chapters from here, Lord Kapila Deva is speaking to his mother. There he says, Yad bhayat vati yatoyam suryastapati mad bhayat Yad bhayat varshate devo bhagano bhati yad bhayat. What does that mean? Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the wind blows. Out of fear of him, the sun shines. Out of fear of him, the rain pours forth showers. And out of fear of him, the host of heavenly bodies shed their luster. So Prabhupada has concluded here in his purport to today's verse that the Lord is all natural phenomena are under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. So these demigods are working as the agents of Vishnu. The time factor itself, which governs even the demigods, is working under the superintendence of Lord Vishnu. In Mahabharata, we know, because this community, I think, has heard explanations of the 1,000 names of Vishnu more than any other. We're very fortunate to have that by the grace of Bhakti Vikas Swami. So in Mahabharata, one of Lord Vishnu's 1,000 names is Dura Atikrama. Dura Atikrama. And what does that mean? According to some, it means the Lord who easily bypasses all obstacles himself. There is no obstacle for the Lord. But it also means anyone who oversteps or tries to overstep his authority will have a hard time. Dur atikrama. You cannot, we mentioned in the beginning, you've got no escape route here. You are under the thumb of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at the very least in terms of his time factor. So that is another significance of the name Dur atikramaha. So, Baladev Vidyabhushan understands it in his Vishnu Sahasranama commentary. Dukkadaha atikramaha shasana ullankhanam asya iti duratikramaha, which means the same thing. Shasana ullankhanam. If you're trying to overstep his dominance, shasaka, Madhvacharya is heavily in this mood of the Lord as the dominator of the jivas. He says, Keshava Keshava Shasaka Vande. Shashaka Vande. In this sense, it means the person who chastises you, the person who controls you, dominates you, not abuses you, but very strongly dominates. This is the Lord. And Madhvacharya relishes that quality of the Lord. Baladev Vidyabhushana, you may recall, was originally trained in that line, so maybe some of that sentiment remains in his heart. I can't speculate about that. But Shasana Ullankhanam, you cannot overstep his predominance. Otherwise, he's going to give you sufferings. Most of the major acharyas commenting on this name in Vishnu Sahasranama also, they quote from the many Shruti mantras that directly paraphrase this verse. And we could talk about that, but that's a little bit of a diversion. But Canto Upanishad similarly mentions, Payad asyagnis tapati bhayat tapati suryaha payarindrasya vayuscha mrityu dhavati panchamaha. Out of fear of him, fire burns. Out of fear of him, the sun shines. Out of fear, run. Indra, Vayu, and the fifth one. Who is the fifth one? You can't guess this. It's not intuitive at all. Panchama means Yamaraja. Yamaraja, he's got us all under his thumb as well, not just Vishnu. But Yama himself, he's working out of fear of the Supreme Lord. Even Adi Shankaracharya comments on this particular name of Vishnu that it implicitly refers to a supreme controller. And that's very significant because according to Shankaracharya's philosophy, everything is one and the same. There's only one being. There's no one to control. You're that controller necessarily, according to his logic. But it is significant for a second reason, which is that just as Shankaracharya sees that this name itself implies somebody who controls somebody else, so in the same way, today's verse, it uses these very explicit words, Purushaha Leelaya Asrajata. He creates this material cosmic manifestation for the purpose of having a pastime. Only a person can do that. Is it not a fact? Yes. He creates something other than himself, first of all, and then he wants to enjoy that creation by pulling people out of it somehow or other. First, he puts us in here for the process of attitude adjustment. That's called Maya. She kicks you hard. And then he pulls us out by his transcendental divine grace. So this is the Lord's pastime. Because after all, if we are listening to Shvetashvatara Upanishad, we know, what does he have to do? Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. He has no karya. Karya means kaj, work. He doesn't have to go to office. He's got no bills to pay. Everything is carried out by his multifarious shaktis. What's the rest of the verse? Vividhaya shriyate swabhaviki jnana bala kriyacha. This is another thing. Jnana bala kriya. It's like these modes that are there in the spiritual world of activity, according to the Upanishads, when they become perverted, they turn into the modes of material nature. Knowledge, awareness, and potency they become transformed into the three modes of material nature. Anyway, the Lord is controlling everyone here, and all other mighty controllers would not run about like servants trembling in fear of him if we were all one and the same. So this is Shankaracharya's observation. If you read Shankaracharya carefully, which I don't recommend, you would find hints here and there that he's actually a devotee at heart, because he was. He had a thankless task to perform. That's why he spoke Mayavad philosophy. Now, the same Katha Upanishad also says, 2.2.13, Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam. That which again implies there are so many eternals, not just one. There are so many eternals, nityanam. And one of them is supremely eternal. There are so many conscious beings, not just one. So many of them are there. But one of them is the predominating consciousness. Chetanas chetananam. And Taittiriya Upanishad also says, Bhishasmad vata pavate, bhisho deti suryaha, bhishasmad agnischendrascha, mrityurdhavati panchamaha. Almost the same thing, verbatim. Means the same thing. So this is further explained in the rest of that chapter from 3rd canto. But if we go to chapter 30 of the 3rd canto, first verse, Kapila Dev himself says, Tasya tasya jano nunam nayam vedoru vikramam kalyamanopi balino vayuriva ghanavalihi. What does that mean? As a mass of clouds does not know the powerful influence of the wind, so a person engaged in material consciousness does not know the powerful strength of the time factor. Isn't it a fact, my friends? By which he's being carried. The clouds are being carried by wind, but they don't know that. And we're being carried by the time factor, and we don't know it. We got no clue. How time is playing with us. What is it else that Shankaracharya says? Kala kridati gacchati ayu tarapida munchati asha vayuhu. It means dinayamanyo punarayata shishiravasanto pratathayam, something like that. Day comes, night comes, dawn comes, dusk comes. Winter and summer keep changing over and over again. It's an endless cycle. Goes on forever. In this way, time plays. What does time play with? Us. Kala kridati and gacchati ayu, but life departs. Firhi tadapina munchati asha vayuhu. Despite this, people hold on to their bundle of hopes as if they could fulfill them here forever. Is this not the most wonderful thing according to Yudhishthira Maharaj? Even though we see practically every day people are running into the jaws of death all around us, dropping like flies, still we make plans to sheshastavanam ichanti. We make plans as if we could stay here forever. So in the same way, the clouds are carried by the wind, but they don't know that. We're carried by this powerful strength of the time factor. And here again in that purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes the same verse from Chanakya Pandit, that even a moment of time can't be returned if you're prepared to pay millions of dollars. One cannot calculate the amount of loss there is in wasting valuable time. Either materially or spiritually, one should be very alert in utilizing the time which he has at his disposal. A conditioned soul lives in a particular body for a fixed measurement of time, and it's recommended in the scriptures that within that small measurement of time, one has to finish Krishna consciousness and thus gain release from the influence of the time factor altogether. But unfortunately, those who are not in Krishna consciousness are carried away by the strong power of time without their knowledge, just as clouds are carried by the wind. And mind you, clouds are also destroyed by the same wind. They're dissipated. So we are also disassembled at a certain point. All the 5 material elements that make up our material bodies, earth, water, fire, air, ether, in various permutations and combinations, these things are all going to dissolve at a certain point of time. Usually the soul leaves the body before that happens, because the body itself becomes intolerable. That's what we call death. You can't stand it anymore because everything is rotting, or there's some tremendous pain or some lethal trauma the body has experienced, and you just leave because you cannot stand it anymore. Okay. All right, so these are some few things we can talk about. Later on in this section of the 3rd canto, after he discusses time, Kapila Dev encourages detachment thereby, and he develops the cycle of repeated birth and death affected by various fruitive actions. You all know that description in the 3rd canto of the adverse fruitive reactions. It's a pretty heady read if you want to revisit that. It talks about what happens if you act like a normal person in today's world. So, anyway, I'm not going to dilate too much on these matters. It's a very subtle matter. But these are just a few things we can observe about today's verse. It's a very hard topic. And it's, how do you discuss practically anything that is non-specific and unestablished and, yet nonetheless a person who arranges the interactions of goodness, passion, and ignorance, these 3 modes of material nature. Goodness, what does that mean? It means increased awareness. Your awareness can increase, That's what it means to be sattvic, or in the mode of goodness. Increased awareness, knowledge, virtue, dharma, these things are all characteristic of the mode of goodness. Passion, what characterizes passion? I mean, the word itself is suggestive enough, isn't it? Strong desire, uncontrollable urges, frenetic activity to fulfill the same, and ultimately the distress that results necessarily from such actions. Passion means what some English poet, maybe it was Longfellow, strange fits of passion I have known. So the result of that is always distress. Sex life. People indulge in sex life without restriction, and they end up paying for it. They get all kinds of diseases. Some of them are not even curable. So what to speak of, even illicit sex, not a whole lot better. Few moments of sensual ecstasy, and then 25 years of hard struggle to pay bills, to raise kids, send them to college, to keep the wife happy. It's never ending. So, and then they leave home, and that breaks your heart. And, you're lucky if you get a phone call once a week after that. This is the payback. And that's why actually Prabhupada says in a strange sort of way, parental affection is actually the purest love that exists in this material world. It's not the strongest, but it is the purest. The strongest is, of course, this conjugal rasa, adi rasa we mentioned yesterday. But parental affection is actually the most noble because it's absolutely selfless. It's absolutely selfless. You love this child because he or she is your child. And that's it. And that love becomes stronger than many other bonds in this world. It's hard to imagine that unless we've experienced it. Anyway. All right. The Supreme Lord is speaking these things. I'm sorry. Now we're back to chapter 10. Maitreya is speaking these things about the time factor. There are other places the time factor has been described throughout Srīmad Bhagavatam and other things. Here's another interesting thing Srila Prabhupada says before we end. Time is not subject to any form of psychology. What does that mean? It doesn't matter what you think about it. It's going on according to its own program, which is as far beyond your comprehension as the movements of the wind are to the clouds. Time. Nor are the moments objective realities in themselves. And we know this. How do we know this? Each moment, your life is made up of successive moments, one after another after another. And at the end of the day, what have you got? Nothing. You can't even remember most of them. So where's the reality there? It's a big illusion, frankly speaking. This is what Krishna says in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Why does he say this in the beginning? Because this is foundational knowledge. You have to understand what is the distinction between what is real and what is false. How does he define those two? Reality and falsehood. Yeah, exactly. Real means it doesn't have a beginning or an end, as we said already. False means it may have either one or both. So, this is the idea. So these moments that what do we do for these few moments that we have? The things that we do to fulfill momentary happiness in this world. Untold, sinful, evil things human beings are capable of because of the power of Maya, especially in the form of passion and ignorance. So, all right, so it doesn't matter what you think, what your attitude is towards time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what that these moments appear to be objective realities, because they aren't. And finally, they are dependent on particular experiences, time. So, therefore, Jiva Goswami concludes that the time factor is intermixed with the activities, the actions, and reactions of the external energy of the Lord. It has to be. Not purely spiritual, because the time factor is in contact with the material nature in a subtle way, in an impersonal, unpin-downable way. This is the purport here. And that, as Prabhupada concludes, that external energy, that material nature, that's working under whose direction? Not yours? Okay. Just checking. So, mayadhyakshena prakriti. And how does he do it? Through time. You can't even find time. What to speak of try to control time? That's the whole point that we should take away from this verse. Nirvishesho apratishta. You can't even, it's hard to conceive of this eternal time. Everything is governed by this time factor. Okay, I'm going to stop now, but if anybody has any questions or comments, maybe we can discuss. Maharaj, you want to
add? As you mentioned, it's a tough purport. It seems that much of it is, let me put it another way. Much of Srila Prabhupada's purports are pretty much directly derived from the previous Acharya's writings, but in this purport it seems that Srila Prabhupada is given his own original commentary on very difficult topics.
Realization.
Yeah, that's the word, yeah.
Wisdom. He does that sometimes.
I want to comment on this, if you go up in the purport a little bit. Nor are now down. Nor are the moments objective realities in themselves. I was recently studying a drop in the ocean of Buddhist philosophy, because it's a huge ocean, and some of the teachings of Nagarjuna, who's tremendously influential up to the present time, although, like Shankaracharya, is tremendously influential, although people don't know their names, but they're influential nevertheless. So he is supposed to be the one who gave rise to this shunyavad, that there's no substance in anything, there's nothing there. So one of his arguments is that time does not exist. Because, and he analyzed, I can't remember exactly, he has very complex arguments. If you analyze each moment, then you can understand it doesn't exist. Because I can't remember exactly how, it was something like, as soon as it comes, as soon as you're thinking about it, it's already gone, something like that.
Yeah.
But this, I immediately thought that, well, to study moments as objective realities is itself a false logic, because time doesn't exist in discrete moments. It's a continuous flow. A moment is a psychological construct, but it doesn't. That's not the way time works. So his argument is fallacious from the beginning in that regard.
Yeah, there's other things that we could say about this verse. I was just looking at this.
Excuse me, just a little thought. But time is measured in moments also. We have the Vedic study, but it's an imposition of our consciousness to do so.
Yeah. Shankar calls that adhyas, superimposition.
Yeah.
Artificial.
To try to help us understand it.
Yeah.
But if you say a moment, it doesn't. If you say a moment, it's also measurable, and then it's not a moment. It's like a point. There's no such thing.
Once you conceive of a moment, it's gone.
Yeah, it has a beginning and an end. You can cut it down to something small. The same thing as a point in mathematics. It doesn't actually exist, because as soon as you say the point is here, then it has it exists in two dimensions, width and length.
Fourth canto compares the time factor to, or the effects of time rather, to an army of fairies, Gandharvas. You can't see them, Gandharvas. I don't know, anybody here ever seen a Gandharva? But they're working nonetheless. They're around. So, but nobody can prove their existence. And so time is evasive like that. One modern Hindi poet said, this truth is like a bird in a bush. That you can, there's a bird inside of a bush, you can hear the bird chirping, but you cannot see the bird. And if you go too close to the bird in order to see it, the bird will fly away, and then it's gone.
Oh.
But if you stay too far, then you'll ever be unable to see the bird, but you know that he's there because he's chirping in the bush. So the time is like that. Reality is also like that. His essay was, this is Nirmal Dharma. His essay was on the concept of truth in art. How does truth pervade art? Very interesting read.
Truth what, sorry?
How does truth manifest itself in artworks?
In art,
Yeah.
I see.
So that, any kind of art is an expression like that. So certain things are just hard to perceive. It's a fact. Sukshmatat tadavijnayam, Krishna tells us in the chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. On account of the subtlety of this truth, we don't understand it generally. So, yeah.
I'd like to add to that. This something very small. If you can conceive of it as small, that means it has length and breadth,
Yeah.
if it's in 2 dimensions. And I was trying to, in string theory, they say there are extra dimensions. I was wondering, what extra dimensions could there be? It's hard to imagine what the extra dimensions could be.
That's
So
not
I
within our
looked it
power.
up, and they say they're very, 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 very tiny. But that means they have they're measured in
Yeah.
in
It's the same
terms
logic.
of already existing dimensions, which means the whole thing's a bluff from beginning to end anyway.
Just like it's one step removed in subtlety from the origin of the species, or something similarly gross.
Anyone else want to say anything else?
We think that we can spend time. We think that we can waste time. We think that we can save time, use time, or even kill time. But actually, time is killing us. Meanwhile, just as the clouds.
You can save time, you can kill time, you can save time, kill time, mark time, waste time. There's so many things you can do with time, but you can't understand it.
This world is called Vyaya, and the spiritual world is called Avyaya, because Vyaya means those things which degrade in time. Over time, you can measure the decay. And, that's true on a physical platform, it's true on a mental platform, it's true even on the spiritual platform, ethical platform. Every platform you analyze, you can see that we're worn down by time. That's why we have to keep coming to the Bhagavatam class every single day, because by the end of the day, you feel a demon again in your mind. And the time factor is strong like that. It's working on us. Kind of like, these covert terrorists and, what do they call this? The Chinese Communist Party and other such entities. They're very subtly working to destroy us as fast as they possibly can and in every way, but it's all under the table. Very sneaky. This time factor is like that. So, since we're mostly brahmacharis here, I can add that a very willful and yet chaste wife, she also brings her husband under her control over time. So, this is something Krishna says, not Krishna. Maybe it is Krishna. Yeah, it is Krishna who says this to Ambarish in the 9th canto of the Srīmad Bhagavatam. So, she bends her husband to conform to her own desires, and in this way, time also erodes our determination. If we're not very staunch and keeping good association, this is why time represents God. Kalosmi loka kshaya krit pravitta. I'm engaged in destroying all of you, he tells Arjuna. He's very frank about it. He's not pulling any punches. So, 11th canto also, we hear the various phases of one's material life, beginning with birth and culminating in death, are all properties of the body and do not affect the soul, just as the apparent waxing and waning of the moon does not affect the moon itself. Such changes are enforced by the imperceptible movements of time. And elsewhere in the 11th canto, he says, my dear Uddhava, material bodies are constantly undergoing creation and destruction by the force of time, whose swiftness is imperceptible. But because of the subtle nature of time, nobody sees this. So you can even go so far as to say that although time represents the absolute truth, the supreme person, Purusha here, the word is used, it also it's acting on behalf of the material energy. It's the agent of material energy. So this is where the fusion of the material and spiritual meet in the time factor. And pretty subtle stuff, the time factor. So this is what he's inquiring about. We'll hear more. There's much more to come about this in the coming verses. I didn't point out here that there's a contradiction in this verse also, because in Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is talking about Brahman, what does he say? Brahmano hi pratishtaham. And this verse directly contradicts Bhagavad Gita. How do you process that? Direct contradiction. It's not an apparent contradiction. It is a real contradiction and a logical contradiction. Here it says the Brahman, the time factor, is represented as the impersonal feature of the Supreme. We know that to be Brahman. But it's apratishta. It's no basis. Who has an answer for this? We're supposed to engage our intelligence in these things. We're supposed to notice such things and inquire about them when we do encounter the contradictions. Anybody want to say something about this?
I can give it a try.
Sorry?
I can give it a try.
Yeah.
Kala is non-different from this. Kalosmi.
Yes.
So he has no basis in that sense. No basis that we can find out. Because nirvishesha is, we can only what do we call that? Shruti gochara, that word is there. Our senses can only go
as far as there can, it allows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's beyond the range of our senses.
Either this is an achintya bheda bheda tattva, or we're talking about time being so subtle. This time is impersonal but not necessarily spiritual, because it's clearly stated in the same verse that this is the agent of the Lord's, it's the agent of the Lord dealing with material creation. So the time factor is spiritual, but the time factor cannot be spiritual at the same time if it's engaged with these modes of material nature. We hear about the spiritual world that the time is conspicuous by its absence there. Now we're talking about eternal time. How is eternal time going to be conspicuous by its absence? Because it's impersonal. It's not something you can ever put your finger on exactly. It's subtle. Anyway, I don't want to speculate, but these statements we've heard before. We can just ruminate on this. Okay, anything else? Questions or any comments? If not, we'll stop here. Thank you all very much. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Hindi poet about truth.
Oh, he's here.